Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bats Are Cool, our BGE Live with Keep Scotland Beautiful. I'm absolutely delighted you can join us today for a fascinating look into the lives of bats, absolutely amazing creatures. Now, a quick bit of housekeeping before we start. We have completed a sound check and everything is working well. So, any issues, I would say come out and come back in, or let us know if there's any problems in the chat area. I've also pasted these top tips from Keep Scotland Beautiful and help with sound issues. I know it's like working with those smart boards and changing devices and settings, so there's some help there in terms of what icons to click if there are any problems with sound. So hopefully everything will work out okay and Teams will work out for us as well. Now, as I said, welcome. It is absolutely lovely having with you all here today. I don't mind telling you that I'm absolutely super excited to learn about bats. It's not something I know about at all, and that's why we've got our experts here. So I'm Sam, and I'm the main teacher and development officer here at West OS. Yes, that's me on screen with my little dog Peril, and she keeps me very, very busy each day and each night. And I'm usually the person being a little bit silly on screen and maybe asking questions that hopefully might help us all out. And I'm delighted to be joined by Arlo from Keep Scotland Beautiful, who's going to be leading a spectacular session. I don't think there's anything Arlo doesn't know about bats. Arlo, how are you today?
Hello, I'm doing fine. I'm sure there's some
Excellent.
stuff I don't know about bats because bats are very surprising creatures and like to shake things up sometimes.
Well, I'm really looking forward to finding out more, and your knowledge, passion, and expertise is going to be great for the lesson today. So, thank you for joining us. We're very, very lucky. Now, probably wondering, well, how does this lesson work? Some of you might have been to a West to West lesson before, and if you're new here, you're very welcome. Well, the lesson lasts around 45 minutes. There'll be times we'll ask you to think, ask you to reflect, and ask you to feedback in the chat area. Teachers, we will need those fast typing fingers ready again at different points. I know I can always rely on you. You might also be working in a learning mat today or your jotter or paper. Nothing's wrong. We're delighted to have you. What I would say though is if there's really good discussion taking place in class, don't feel pressurised to come back to the screen for me and Arlo. Talk about that in class with your teacher and with your peers because that's really, really important and we don't want to interrupt that at all. Now, my favourite part, so what are we learning today? Well, we're understanding about bats and their bodies and their functions of them. We're going to understand about bats and their environment and obviously how we can impact on their welfare. Now, how will I know you've been successful? Because I'm not in your class and I really wish I was, but I know your teachers are looking out for this. By the end of the lesson, you're going to be able to identify different body parts, something I want to learn, Arlo. You're going to be able to describe why bats are important to our environment and you're going to explain how we can protect them and again look after their welfare. So lots to learn. I have to say, I think my brain is going to get a workout, Arlo, but I know our young people in the classes are more than ready for this. So, summarising on screen, we're looking at bat biology, conservation, and the importance of bats. I also wanted to draw your attention to this amazing photograph that Arlo's found for us. Those bat wings are incredible. And I have to say, I've never really thought about them. I've seen them fly above me before, but I've never looked. And I'm just looking at how that's made and thinking about what that would feel like and what it would look like. So I can't wait to explore that part of the
Well,
lesson.
we definitely will be learning.
So I think we're ready for our warm up. And for our warm up, everyone, I'm going to give you 2 minutes for this. And what I would like you to do is I would like you to think when I say the word bats, what's the first thing that comes to mind? So I want you to spend 1 minute in class talking. Then I want you to spend a minute putting your answers in the chat. So don't come straight to the chat. Speak first in your class, listen to everyone around you, and then we'll get some answers in the chat. On you go. Over to you.
Don't worry, everyone, I'm just about to share my screen, so you'll have lost Sam's for a minute there. Now, hopefully, you should all be able to see my lovely screen.
Okay, so you should now start to put your answers in the chat area. So 1 minute for that.
Okay, so we've got some answers coming in now, and I have to say, amazing answers here. great
Yep.
ones, and I was hoping that we get some good ones. But sometimes people just don't know much about bats. I really like that people have got some really good words like nocturnal and echolocation, because those two are completely correct and great answers for this. And some people are saying vampires. Yeah,
Yep.
so we'll definitely be exploring vampires next week a lot.
Ooh.
And vampires are just part of the culture of bats. Germs, yeah, so like everything, there's germs. Flying mammals, love that answer. Caves and darkness, fluffy. Yeah, bats are little fluffy. Batman, yep. Batman is scared of bats and then becomes it. We've got flying creatures, blind. Well, this, maybe. We'll definitely find out more about that next week. But maybe they're not blind, maybe they just have
Oh.
different eyesight to us.
You've got me thinking
Cute,
now, Arlo.
yeah. COVID, yeah, some unfortunate bad press about that. And wings, fruit, flapping. Wow, so many amazing answers here. I definitely cannot read through them all,
Yep.
but everyone's done amazing answers here. The smallest is a pipistrelle. Yeah, one of the smallest bats in the UK is a pipistrelle. That's a really, really good answer. So, you guys have amazing answers. The next part we're going on to is kind of like looking at why I like bats and why there's some really amazing different varieties, different types of fruit bats. Yeah, love fruit bats. So, why I like bats? Someone already said this. They're the only flying mammal, and our flying mammals are sometimes called flying squirrels. They glide.
Mm.
False. Bats are the flying mammals, only ones. And the other one is they're really caring creatures. So someone said vampire bats, so vampire bats will feed on blood, and then if their friend is sick and can't go out to get food, these tiny little bats will give some of their food to their best friends so that they can recover and get well from whatever illness is going on. And for such a small animal, this is actually a really big ask, because bear in mind, they're tiny and they need to go out several times then if they're giving away some of their food.
Wow. I have to say, I thought that was a bit yucky, Arlo, but that's actually very kind.
It's very sweet. They're really diverse and unique. These are 34 different species of bats. All of them were found in Nigeria during a study in 2023, so not that long ago. And if you can see, there's some that have green circles around them. Each one with a green circle, a brand new species that was first identified from this survey. So even today, we're still finding new species of bats. So we never know what we're going to find. So 9 new species were found just in this one survey. So the next part, I need you to all have writing equipment and or some kind of way you can tell us what the answers are. So if you could also write numbers 1 to 11 unless you have a printout of the bat's body parts. We're kind of going to work through this together because there's quite a few different answers going on here, and we're going to start with one that I think is a little bit maybe trickier, but what we were going to learn it is I'll let you write down 1 to 11, and then I'm going to help using my body to show you what the parts of the bat are. So we're just going to give you 30 seconds to write down your numbers.
I'm going to try very hard at this, Arlo. I don't know anything. I think I might know one thing.
I hope so.
1 to 11 sorted.
Okay, everyone. So hopefully you got your 1 to 11. And what I want you to do now, look at my hand. And number 1, if we're looking at our hand, this here, what do you think? What is, we call this our thumb. On the bat, the hand is like this. So we can say that number 1 is a thumb. So if we know that this part is our thumb and we have this part of our body here, what do we think number 2 might be? Looking at the bat, if you could put an answer in chat, if you know it.
Few people come in quite
So
quickly saying arm.
amazing answers coming in now. Yes, so well done. We got our thumb, then we've got our forearm. So just like us, the bats have got their arms. Next one, I think you're going to know this one.
I think I
So
do.
again, if we can, yeah, number 3 already on it. Ear. Yeah, bats have incredible hearing. Someone mentioned earlier echolocation. Bats need big ears for echolocation. And if you see big ears, you know that they rely on sound a lot. So yes, our ear. So if we go back to our nice hand again, number 4, if we think this is our thumb, what's this then for number 4? What's finger is this called? Yeah, so people are saying good answers here. The index finger, pointing finger, yeah. Second finger, all the same. It's our second finger. So like us again, they've got thumb, they got forearm, they got a finger. And number 5, someone's already actually put the answer in, jumping ahead there. So we got our middle finger, also known as the third finger, because what we count, this is a 1, 2, 3. Next one, I think you're going to get it again. It's kind of repeating now. What do you think number 6 and 7 are? So I'm going to do 2 at a time here. Ring finger, fourth finger, and number 7. So got our thumb, we got our second finger, our third finger. 6 is our fourth finger.
Ah.
7th, as some people are saying as well, we've got our pinky. So awesome. Now, we've all done our upper part of the body. The bat's body is slightly different to ours, but it still has legs. And number 8 isn't pointing at legs, but it's pointing at a joint that's in your leg and it bends. What do you think this would be? Okay, great. Yes, it's the knee. So our little bats have little knees. They are formed differently because bats hang upside down, but it's still the same joint. And number 9, I think you're all going to get this because you've got a good idea now. Got your toes and your little feet. Yeah, great answers there. Already getting in on it.
So fast.
Yeah, these people are typing quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got our foot and our tootsies, and technically tootsies is not the correct term, but you know, it's a cute term. And number 10, what do we think this is? Yeah, it's our tail. Bats have tails. Some of them have short tails, some have longer tails, and some it's so small it's like us, it's almost not present. Because we still have a tailbone, but they just have a tiny little bit.
Ah.
And number 11, what do we think this is? This one's a little bit trickier, I think. It is, yeah, we're saying wing. So it's, yes, it is the wing. There we go, someone's put in is membrane. Yeah, this is exactly right. It's called wing membrane, and it's kind of like skin that's going all over the hand, and that's how the bats can fly.
Oh.
So we have our lovely wing membrane. Fantastic answers, everyone. I'm very impressed, and hopefully you'll all remember this because you can think, oh, I have these parts on my body too. Well, except for the wing membrane.
Yeah. I wish I did, but I don't.
Our tail is like a tailbone, but still. So bats obviously fly, as we all have been talking about, and they use their wings for that. The way that it works in bat flight is they use their, as we know, hands. So we've got Kai, it goes hand, and then ptera, meaning wing. So if you heard of a pterodactyl, that means wing finger. So in this hand, it'd be hand wing. And here we can see on the left, A is a bat wing and B is a bird. So even though they both have the capability of flight, they actually do look quite different. So birds have feathers and the bats, as we know, wing membrane. So if we can go back to our hand again and we all get a bit of space and stretch our hand out so we have all of it, and imagine that you've got big wing here and you try and move it, you get a lot of range because there's just a lot more to move in the arm and with the hand. So bats are really agile because they've got so much movement. They've got the shoulder, they've got the forearm that bends, so they're very agile. Now, a bird's wing is slightly different. And who's ever tried to pretend to be a chicken? So you have to like put your arm up at your shoulder to go like this, and that's about the range of movement that birds have. So although they are really good at flying, they're not as good and as agile as a bat. It's very chickeny and a bit less movement.
Mhm.
So I always think that bats must be a really good. Oh, thank you to Miss Quayle for the answers there. Sorry, I've completely lost my space there.
Go
The
on. That's
wings,
actually fascinating. I've never thought about the difference between bats and birds at all. Arlo, so now
yeah,
I'm really thinking, you just take it for granted they've both got wings, so they would fly the same way?
yeah, they both have wings, but they both fly in very different manners. And
Yeah.
even between bird species and bat species, you can see the different ways that each of them will fly, even within the same species.
Fascinating.
So the next thing we're doing is we're going to be looking at wingspans more, and we need you to have your measuring things. So I'll just give you a bit of time there to find your measuring equipment. You'll need, if you're doing it yourself, you'll need a ruler that goes up to 30 centimeters, and then you need a meter stick, and then at least another meter stick for the next section.
And don't
So
worry,
up
I
to
know a few people said they couldn't get the resources. Don't worry at all.
that's
We'll fill you in.
if you haven't got the resources, that's fine. We're still going to learn about it, and you can also just do this at a later date and explore whatever, because you could also just look at your arm and be like, whoa, big wings. So hopefully you have all got some measuring things now, and we're going to look at what size bats are. We're going to start with the world's smallest bat species. So if you have a ruler in front of you, I'd like you to measure 2.5 centimeters. So 2.5 is pretty small. And with the wingspan, we're going from, if it was your hand, again, tip from there all the way across your body to the other one. So that's the wingspan we're measuring here. And this tiny little wingspan is the
Oh,
bumblebee bat. It's so small. That is a thumb. And this here that is an adult baby little
wow.
tiny guy. This guy's tiny and is just able to be the size of a thumb. I just still can never get over how tiny these guys are. They're so small,
Oh,
and they're found in Asia.
that's amazing. And do they grow?
No, this is an adult.
That's it.
This is it,
Wow.
fully sized. It won't get any bigger than this.
It's incredible.
So again, if we're on our rulers, we're going to jump up to a UK species. This is a pipistrelle.
Hmm.
And can you measure 20 centimeters? This is one of our species. It's an insectivore, meaning it eats insects. So it's a bit bigger, but even though it's that bit bigger, it's still quite small. And this species is one that you could find in your garden or in your park. They're all over the place in the UK. Now, the next one is jumping up again, and so you're going to need to have a big measuring tape for this one because it's for what we might commonly refer to as a flying fox. So it's a grey-faced bat from Australia, and its wingspan is 100 centimeters, which, if you're doing our conversions, is 1 meter. It's big. So if you've got a meter stick in your class,
Mhm.
that is how big the wingspan is. Huge. But it's still not the biggest bat in the world.
No way. I would
And
think that would already be gigantic, to be honest.
it is across both. So it goes from one hand here all the way across your body and then keeps going and it goes all the way to the other one.
Okay.
That's a great question. Thank you for asking. And so we're going to learn what the biggest bat species in the world is. It's found again in Asia, as in it's a fruit bat, and it's the golden crested flying fox, and it's a whopping 180 centimeter wingspan.
Ooh.
So if you've got 2 meter sticks, it's almost that. It is big. And these ones are often thought to be mistaken for people because of their size, and they're just massive. And think about it, even though they're different species, they're all from the same order. They're all bats, but it goes from 2.5 all the way up to 180 centimeters. Huge difference.
Unbelievable.
So hopefully you've all been measuring along with me and I've not been going too fast. But remember, if you have, just keep working away on it and you can just catch back up. We're gonna look at something that's pretty well known for bats, and that's that they love to hang upside down. This one here is a lesser horseshoe bat, which was taken photos this summer by me and my colleagues in the south of England. And this is a bat from, I believe, Egypt, and different species, both hanging upside down. And if you can see here, we've got these claws that we've zoomed in on, and thanks to those claws and special muscles and tendons in their their ankle joints and their knee being backwards, they can hang upside down with very little effort, and it's actually just very comfortable for them. But it has taken a lot of evolutionary time to get to this point. But it's not just energy efficient, it's safer from predators because they're up high usually, and it's much harder for a predator to find them when they're roosting all the way up. It's also easy to take flight. We have gravity here, so when the bats are falling, they're able to use the resistance and just swing straight up, rather than if they were taking flight from the ground, they would have to generate all of that and go against gravity. So it's a lot harder. So bats are really good at hanging upside down. How long can they hang upside down for? As long as they want. We will be looking at hibernation in a few slides' time, and they will stay happily hanging upside down, sleeping for months.
Wow.
So I want you, next time you feel like it, to try hanging upside down. And like Mr. McCutcheon's class said, how long can you hang upside down for? Because we get head rushes because all the blood rushes to our head because we weren't really designed to stay upside down like a bat. So next time you're maybe in the playground and there's a safe ground below, please don't do this on concrete. Have a hang upside down and see how long you can manage. Maybe have a wee competition with your friends. See who's the best bat. I mentioned quite a few different bat species, and with bats being all around the world and all different sizes and all eating different things, which we'll also find out soon, bats live in different habitats. So here's a few of them that they live in, but it's not just limited to these. There's lots more other ones out there. So one of them is rainforests and cloud forests. This one here is just an example, but we also have rainforests in the UK, if you didn't know. Your local parks and green spaces. This one's just an example, but you might find if there's a lot more water, especially calm water like this where it's not running fast, you'll see bats hunting for insects. Caves, someone mentioned it earlier, that's what came to mind for them. So bats do love cave systems and they often sleep in them and hunt elsewhere because it's a bit harder to move around and with lots and lots of bats flying. This is just some houses in Glasgow. You can find them here. They'll be maybe sometimes roosting in roofs or even sometimes on windowsills. And mines. So if anyone's ever looked at what mining happened in the UK, things like coal mines in Wales and in the UK, we've also done mining and quarrying, and bats love it in there. Oh, we've got bats in our clock tower at school. That's very exciting. I'm very jealous. And we also just get them in general wooded spaces. This is just from a picture of local woods in Glasgow. So it's found in small patches of urban areas. And we found loads in our window frames when we got new windows. So jealous, honestly. Everyone has got bats around them, but just getting them in your windows. So lucky.
Wow.
I want you to have a think. Some people have said earlier some things that bats might eat. Would you be able to take 30 seconds, 90 seconds ish, just a short wee bit of time to have a discussion in your groups and classes what you think the diets of bat species can be? Lots and lots of different answers here. So if you have more than one, just put more than one answer in. So the first few answers are saying insects, which is great, because indeed all UK bats are insectivores, meaning they all eat insects. Some people are saying fruits, yeah, fruits. Also mice, yeah, small rodents and other small mammals. Blood, great answer, yes. Worms are a bit tricky for bats because they're in the soil, so unless it happens to be there, they maybe would eat larvae, which would be the juvenile stage of insects. So they might eat like a moth caterpillar and things like that, but mostly they tend to be going for flying insects. These are really great answers. Small birds, yeah. Seeds, not so much, just because they eat the seeds, but they don't digest the seeds properly, which we'll also find out soon. So, a lot of answers about insects. Yeah, they eat loads of different insects. Here's just a few. Got our moths, we got midges. They save us from getting eaten by midges. Spiders and flies. Really great answers coming in still. And yeah, they eat lots of different fruits all around the world, and thanks to them, they also spread trees and do a really good job of helping our planet. An answer I don't think anyone said yet was nectar. And if you're unsure what nectar is, think of our bees and how they pollinate the plants. They're drinking the nectar, and just because they're going near the nectar, they get pollen trapped to them and they pollinate the other flowers. These bats are doing the same thing. They want the tasty nectar, and in exchange, they get pollen all over them and go to different flowers and help pollinate the species. Are any just herbivores? Yes, so fruit bats are basically just herbivores. Fruitarians, maybe would be the word. Um, they just eat fruits and vegetables, basically. They also eat, as we said, some small rodents. Some eat fish. My favourite is the Mexican fishing bat. There's also bats that eat other bats, and lizards and other small amphibians. Sorry, and amphibians, because lizards are reptiles. And someone said blood. They love cattle blood. Large, usually herbivore animals are the ones that the three vampire species drink from. Okay, so our Scottish bats, as we've mentioned, are insectivores. We have three species of pipistrelle. In Scotland, the one we're most likely to see is the soprano pipistrelle, which is in the middle here. But the other two are pretty common, especially the common pipistrelle in England. That's the most common species. And we also have the brown long-eared bat, which has very large ears, very good for hearing. We have our largest species, and these are the two that sometimes children who have very, very good hearing can hear without a bat detector, which is very cool. I could never do it, but some people can still hear what a noctule or a Leisler's bat is echolocating, and we're going to hear what they sound like on the next slide. And we also have our Natterer's bat and our Debenton bat. The Debenton bat is often called the water bat because it likes to hunt insects that are living just on the water or are flying around on the water. So that's a species that you might see if you're looking at a pond or a lake. Well, first we're going to have a quick question. We all know these are insectivores now. How many insects do you think one bat could eat in a single night? 1,000,000, 50? There's some range of answers there. 1,000, 10,000. 403. That's a very specific answer. Too many. I don't know I think if one bat was eating all the insects, it would be impressive if they could manage that many. Loads of different answers coming in. Some are closer than others, but on average, a single bat in, say, a soprano pipistrelle can eat 3,000 insects. So if you imagine that there's even a small colony, we would call it, of maybe 1,200, 12,000 insects. Yeah. So many. 3,000 in a single night.
I'm embarrassed. I said 20, Arlo. 3,000.
Oof.
No way. I didn't
They
think they'd have the
unfortunately would not
capacity.
survive on they would not survive on 20 insects. How would it be recorded? That's a good answer. I'm going to answer at the end though because it's a little bit complicated. So I mentioned that they use echolocation, and so echolocation, if you don't know, is a bat sends out sound waves and usually sounds like clicks, and when the sound wave bounces off of something, like it does in red, in this case a nice moth, it will tell the bat information based on where the insect is, or if it's a tree, it will tell that there's an object here, fly around that. And the bats have just evolved to be able to understand the sound waves, and in some cases, people who are blind have actually used echolocation to be able to get around better. The bat's calls are usually out of human hearing, but we have something called a bat detector, and that allows us to be able to hear what the bats are making. But if we heard it all the time, we'd probably get very annoyed because it's very loud. So these are some of our bat echolocation recordings. We have a soprano pipistrelle, if it would like to play. Everyone's got sound all up. I hope you heard that. I'll play it again. But I like to think of this kind of almost sounding a little bit like slapping water. You can't hear it.
No, I can't hear anything, Arlo.
Oh, nee. One moment.
Don't
I
worry, we
have
will
to
bring it
stop
to you.
sharing and then share it again.
No, that's absolutely fine. It's a Teams issue. I hope it gets fixed, but I'm looking forward to hearing this because I don't think I've ever heard bats at all. I've certainly seen them fly above me, but I wouldn't know what kind of sound to look out for. And as you say, I might not be able to pick it up anyway. So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing what this would be, and I'll be out looking for this, listening for it.
Would you let me know if you can hear this
Yeah.
one?
No problem. Yes. Oh.
Okay, so hopefully you heard that one. And yes, it kind of sounds like spluttering and water. And that's what the soprano one would sound like. Yeah, like bubbles. It's quite a fun one, I think. And so that's our soprano and our nocturne. And hopefully you can remember that sound and listen for the difference. So that's the nocturne. I like to think of that if you have maybe like a bit of metal or some wood and it's like you move it and it makes like a bloop, bloop, bloop sound. That's the kind of thing I like it. Sounds like bat beatboxing. Yeah, you know what? It could be. Maybe some new tracks coming soon. And this is our little brown long-eared bat who I do have a bit of a soft spot for because I just love the ears. We agree, we thought that was rapping. So that one was really quiet, wasn't it, comparative to the other ones? So I'll play it again. So this is really a way that we can identify bat species if we use a bat detector, so we know what bats are flying around, because we can't always just be like, oh, what bat are you? And they don't answer. We thought it sounded quite like a woodpecker. It does a bit, static TV. Yeah. So using a bat detector, we can identify what species we have around us based on the sound and the sound waves, and the study of this is in fact called bioacoustical studies. So it's a very interesting dolphin chat. Yes, well done. Dolphins also use echolocation, so it does sound a bit like a dolphin. So I'm very conscious of time, but I'm just going to quickly answer that because it's a really, really good point. Um, soprano bats are called a soprano because within the last 20 years we discovered that the soprano pipistrelle and the common pipistrelle were two separate species, and the soprano pipistrelle echolocates at a slightly higher frequency than the common pipistrelle, hence why it's called a soprano. So a year in the life of the bat. Just because we're a bit short on time, I'm going to run through this a bit quicker than I planned, but please pay attention, and hopefully if you need to, you can see a recording, and there's also going to be a chance to ask more questions.
Absolutely.
So right now it's January, so we're going to look at what the bat's doing just now. We've got our bats hibernating just now. They're using fat stores that they've gotten throughout the year and have been gorging themselves on, so that then in these colder months when we don't have as many insects, they're able to just sleep in what's called hibernation for a long period. Other animals do it, such as bears, and they're very, very good at it. And they were asking about how long they can hang for. They start going into hibernation months before this, so it's come January, they're still hanging upside down. They maybe will have moved around a bit, but they don't want to, they just want to be sleeping.
Like me this
February,
morning.
they're still hibernating, but they're getting pretty hungry now because it's been quite a while. And it's really important we don't disturb them. That's why it's got the little signs. March, starting to get warmer, and you're going to see a little bit more insect activity. So then when it's a bit warmer, bats will start coming out to do short feeds, maybe not very effectively, but they'll still go back into kind of hibernation mode when it gets a bit too chilly. April, they are ravenous, hungry as anything, and they are active, they're hunting all the time. We might remember sometimes we get cold weather in April, so they do just go back in if they need to go for another short break of hibernation. And yeah, they're starting to get their fat up and get nice and ready for the next few months where they're going to be having, hopefully, babies. So May, all the females are off finding places where they want to have their pups, and they're looking for where would be a safe place. And at this point, the males are off eating and not looking at nursery lets just now. Then come June, all these babies are born, and we get some very cute little tiny bats, and they're all born around the same time, although there will be a few weeks, and even in roost to roosts, they seem to all be around the same time. July, the mums are still raising the babies. They're suckling, and they actually share childcare, so they will sometimes pass off their babies to other mums. They only ever have one pup. Very occasionally they have twins, but it's often not successful because the mum can't provide enough for two bats. So unfortunately, usually one does die,
Oh.
but not always. August, the pups have gone. The females are wanting to find a mate so that the next year they're ready to start having a baby again. So they don't get pregnant straight away. They basically, when during its hibernation time, they've stored it away so that then come warmer temperatures, they can then become pregnant and gestate when they're not going to be using up their fat stores, because it's very hard to grow a baby. So September, they've found their mates and they are getting ready to make babies and get really, really fat for hibernation. So they're going to be eating lots and lots of insects just now. So coming October, still mating, and they're also looking for places where they want to settle down for several months of long sleep. And when they're sleeping, they often will choose the same sites again and again. So it's one of the reasons it's really important that we keep spaces available for bats and think, well, this space might be a bat roost and might not be in the summer, but in the winter it might be, or vice versa. November, it's starting to get chilly, and the bats are thinking, right, I need to have a few short naps, but keep myself sometimes awake. So if there's a nice warm night in November, they will come back out and get some food. December, freezing cold for bats, and they are in a deep sleep by this point. And as you can see, they have gotten very fat in the previous months and have a little pot belly. So that's the year in our life of a bat. And around the world, this can look slightly different. This is just the UK bats, and they all follow around the same kind of schedule. Again, why are bats such amazing creatures? They're our best friends, and we spoke about how they eat different things and what does that mean? I will answer some questions at the end. So, what do you think these all have in common? Looking at the bat, who we think are covered in something, and all these different plants and fruits, some of which I'm sure you all enjoy eating regularly. What do you think the bat's been doing for all these? Yeah, so we've got some good answers here coming in. Sap and pollination. So sap is part of the tree, but the answer is that they will help pollinate them for these specific ones, and some of them people are kind of getting the right idea for the next question, because bats do eat a lot of these fruits, but just because they eat them doesn't mean they pollinate them. And in this is a case of these are ones that are specifically pollinated by bats and other things. So the other thing that people are saying are they help spread seeds. What else do you think is another aspect of farming they might be helping with? Thinking about them not eating these items, but what do they do? What do, say, our bats do for farming?
Mm.
Thinking about what they eat. Fantastic answers coming in. Someone's put the exact answer I was looking for.
Oh.
Yeah, they are what we would call insect control. So they are eating the insects that would damage the crops, and the crops basically without the bats would pest police. Yes, pest police indeed. The crops could suffer things like a infestation of a species of insect that would just get rid of all of the crops, and then the farmer wouldn't have anything and we wouldn't have tasty food. So next time you're eating chocolate, think I best thank the bats, because without them our chocolate would be gone. And tell your parents thank you bats for coffee and everything else. They're very, very nice.
Very
And
grateful.
the other thing we were talking about, because someone mentioned it earlier, was seeds and stones. So yeah, the bats will eat the fruit, and it helps with reforestation. So there's species of bats that do big, big migrations, and part of the migration, each day equivalent, they reforest the equivalent of around a football pitch each day, thanks to this one migration route. It's pretty amazing, and it's thought to be one of the reasons that the parks in Central and Southern Africa have been doing so well along these routes, all thanks to bats. There's loads and loads of threats to bats. The main ones we will kind of touch on just now, because there's always some that I'll have missed because there's loads and loads. I'll do a few myself, and then I'm going to ask you for some answers. Someone's put eagles, I think, which is, yeah, sometimes birds of prey will take bats. This one is noise.
Mm.
People are just, yeah, you know what? Put in the answers and I'll put up my answers, and together we will have all of them, I'm sure. Lights, people, humans, cats, climate change, all of these are correct.
Done.
Cutting down habitats. So you don't even need me to have these slides. The Joker. Yes, the Joker does threaten Batman. I'm sure his behaviour does impact on the bats in some ways.
Mm.
Snakes, some species of snake do go for bats, yes. Housing and buildings, lights, traffic, human trying to catch them. So yeah, we've had a few of the answers. So we've got urbanisation, and deforestation, someone said, and poison food. Yeah, so that's a really, really good answer, because sometimes farmers will spray land, and if they spray it at the wrong time, it will kill the insects, but maybe too soon, and the bats can still catch some of the insects, and because they're so sensitive to poison accumulates in their body and then they die as well. So it's really important that if pesticides are used, farmers follow certain rules and regulations so that animals don't get injured. Guns, so hunting sometimes. This is construction. So construction's loud and often disruptive to bats, and they often get confused if new things go where it used to be nice and safe. Cats, someone else said, which is correct. In the UK, cats are the biggest predator of bats, and each year hundreds of thousands of bats are caught by rats. Sorry, cats, not rats. Someone else wrote rats. Rats is also a threat in some countries to bats, not so much here because there's lots of other foods. This one is indicating pesticides, which we were just covering. So the farmer spraying his field with a crop duster. This one is wind turbines, because bats use echolocation, and although they can see, it's dark when they're out, and the wind turbines, the echolocation is not something that they've evolved to know what it is, and so they'll just fly straight into them. The same for overhead fans outside that are left on, in tropical countries especially. And this one's habitat fragmentation, someone speaking about it, and habitat loss and cutting down trees. So without having pathways between habitats, we'll find that the bats are isolated. And this one here is a bit of a tricky one, but the white stuff on the nose is actually a fungus, and unfortunately infects bat species in colonies and spreads pretty quickly, and unfortunately suffocates them to death because the
Oh,
fungus grows all over them, and it's very itchy and not very comfortable for them.
terrible.
Electricity cables can be problems in sometimes, but at least in the UK they're not the biggest problem. I think because we have good infrastructure of our electricity comparative to some places, and our bats are quite small. But I know in countries where there's larger bat species, sometimes they even will like go to hang on a cable and the cable will break.
Oh,
So little mushrooms to indicate
cables.
where's the fungus, what's fungus. I will answer the questions after. Sorry. So we're wanting to help our friends, our little flying bats. We want them to be healthy. They want to have habitat and to live lovely lives, so they can also keep helping us, and just because they deserve to be there. A way you can do it, although some schools have said they already have it, you can put up a bat box. This one here is one that was made out of just scrap wood, so it doesn't have to be anything super fancy, it just has to be a wood that they can grip onto. You can put bells on your cat collars so the bats might hear it, or just so that there's a bit of sound to be about. It also helps with birds and to keep your cats inside at night. If bats are, as we know, are nocturnal, someone else was saying this as well, um, we keep our cats in at night, it'll help keep the bats safe, especially if you know your cat is an avid hunter. We can also learn and share our knowledge about bats, so hopefully when you go home today, you will go and bother your parents by telling them all about bats and be like, we need to go and see bats now. So yeah, spread the knowledge and make sure that everyone knows how awesome they are. And attracting nocturnal insects to your garden is an awesome way to bring bats to your your green space, so your house, your garden. And this is from Bug Life, and you can see, hopefully you can read them. It's so put in motion sensor lights, so there's not constant lights. Put in shielded areas from wind and lighting if you can. Have native plants and trees. Log piles are really good for insects, especially if they have eggs and larvae. That's a nice warm place. And obviously you can see a wee bug hotel, and our lovely bat boxes can be put in your garden. If you find a bat in trouble, the best way to do it is to, if it's not in any danger, leave it be and call one of these numbers. Well, have a parent call one of these numbers and tell them, and they'll send someone out to come and get your bat for you. It's really important that if for whatever reason you had to handle a bat, you use gloves that are nice and thick, or if you don't have that, you can use a towel, but just make sure you don't handle them with your direct skin, because we don't want you to catch anything, and we also don't want the bat to be upset. So cover it with a towel, put it in a box if you have to. Otherwise, just leave it and follow whatever one of these numbers say. This is one of our last activities. I want you to have a look at this nice garden and have a think what in the garden could maybe go, or what could you add or change to make this garden a better place for bats. Have a few minutes and we will come back and discuss this. So feel free to just write it down, or yeah, you can put it in the chat if you prefer, whichever ways works for you. Some really good answers coming in. I'll give you all a little bit longer. More greenery in general. I would agree with that.
Yep, getting that cat inside. I see that lurking under the
Yeah,
tree.
everyone's wanting this poor cat just wanting to have a nice night on the town, and everyone's like, inside. Our bats are very important.
Yeah.
So I think we've got some really good answers coming in. I'll just give you a tiny bit longer because I think everyone's been writing some really, really good answers in.
We've got about 2 minutes left, Arlo.
So this is our beautiful garden that's been revamped especially for bats. So sometimes we have to know that it's not possible, so we've still got our big light because that's just a street lamp and we can't always change that. But we've taken out the lighting in the tree, we've added in some log piles, we've added a lot more flowered grass as well as normal grass, and we've even got a pond because ponds attract insects, so we get lots and lots of different insects and then bats coming along. We've taken the cat inside because as we know, we don't want the cat to eat our nice bats. And we've also just added some new flowers, and we've put in some greenery at the bottom of the tree as well, so it's not just grass. So we've really expanded it and had it in hedgerow rather than a fence. And in all, I think this would be a much nicer garden, but there's still always more you could do. So there's lots more, and people even included answers that I didn't put in this. So really, really good choices here. And this is also just a UK garden. Someone's saying growing fruit trees, which is good for insects as well. If you lived in Australia, you might want lots of fruit trees if you wanted to have bats. The last main bit is our quiz. So I want to know how well you were listening, and hopefully you can write down 1 to 4 and get ready to answer some questions. The first one is a true or false, so it's a nice quick one. The world would be the same without bats. True or false?
Oh, fast. These glasses are quick off the mark
Yeah,
here.
very
Lots
quick
of false
off the mark.
coming in. False, false, false. I can see that repeatedly.
Yeah, everyone's like, no, no, no. This is ridiculous. Yes, false. The world would definitely not be the same. You wouldn't have chocolate, you wouldn't have coffee, we wouldn't have any of the nice delicious foods we were mentioning earlier. The next one is going to involve a little bit more writing. Thinking back to what species we mentioned, can anyone name a species of bat that we looked at today? Bumblebee bat? Yay. Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
yay.
good one. Fruit bats and pipistrelles, the brown long-eared. Vampire bats, good one. Old world fruit bats.
Superb.
That one I would say very well done to, because you are correct. We have New World and Old World bat species. And if you're interested, you can learn about that after the class. Amazing answers. Vampire bats, yeah. Golden crested. Fantastic. I haven't put that answer here because we answered it in the class here. And we kind of just covered it. What can you do to help in your area for bats? Mexican fishing bat, great answer that. Personal favourite. Create bat boxes, keep cats inside, less lighting, put your bell on a cat. Fantastic.
Well done.
So there's hopefully these also give you ideas if you want to do something in your school, how you can do it. And I saw lots of answers and questions. Fantastic answers here. And our last question is, bats are the only true flying mammal. True or false? Answer's flying in.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's saying true.
Really?
True. Yes. It's one of the
Excellent.
first points we learned, because flying squirrels do not really fly. And I'm really, really impressed with everyone in learning all this interesting facts today. And if you're still really wanting to learn more about bats, because there's still always more to learn, we have some activities you can do after. One of them is Be the Bat. So if you want to explore bat echolocation, you can do a game where you're pretending to be the bat and using sound while blindfolded to try and find people pretending to be moths. You could also, as we've discussed, what you could do to improve your school grounds or your garden and do some bat-friendly growing. And we also have a really fun way to be a bit of a bat researcher, and you could write your own field guide to bats. So choose a species of bat, any species, and write a guide to them. I hope you've really enjoyed this, and if you do any work, please do share it with West OS and Keep Scotland Beautiful. And I really, really appreciate all of you coming along. There's so many of you, and you've done a really amazing job.
No, it's brilliant. Thank you, Arlo.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you all a week today at 11 o'clock. Yes. Yep. And that one's going to be all about bats and heritage, looking at culture and places from around the world. So I hope you enjoyed everything, and we really, really appreciate you having come along.
Well, thank you, Arlo, for your time. I have to say, I'm absolutely loving the lesson. And to everyone that's asked questions, we will collate them into an answer guide and send over to you. So if you've got those burning questions, don't worry, the answers are coming your way.
I'll put answers, Arlo,
40 minutes ago, I didn't know anything at all, and now I'm going to be telling people about knees, ears, the soprano bat. I'm going to be telling about how to get their garden sorted. Thank you. We will see everybody at 11 o'clock next Thursday. I hope you have a lovely lunch if you're heading off for that right now. And thank you, Arlo, again for your expertise and passion. It just shines through. See you next week. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.